Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1083, written by Icy0706. How a door turned my peaceful night into a nightmare. I have 3 stories that really stand out to me, and as far as explainability, I can't explain any of them. But one is the winner as far as scaring the crap out of me. They all involve doors. The first one. In my teenage years, I lived in a townhome owned by my then stepdad, who freely admitted he thought the place was haunted. He was self-employed as a sound equipment installer and often would come and go during the day, and my mom worked 9 to 5 at a law firm. It was summer break, but I wasn't driving yet. I spent a lot of time outside, and this was before the time everyone had a cell phone, so I'd often take our cordless home phone outside with me. I went outside one day and realized I'd forgotten the phone. When I tried to go back inside to get it, the door was locked. Not the handle, which I may have written off as something I accidentally did on my way out. No, it was the deadbolt. The handle freely turned, but the deadbolt was engaged. The deadbolt that requires a key to unlock from the outside, which I did not have. I stood there dumbfounded for a few minutes. Nobody else was home, and the only other entrance to the house was a set of sliding doors in the basement that was always locked. What the fluck just happened? I kept trying to open it like an idiot for a while, before finally resigning myself to borrowing the neighbor's phone and calling my stepdad. He was in town, and after asking me if I was sure 1,000 times, he came to unlock the door. I'll never forget him saying, "Yep, the deadbolt was completely thrown. I can't explain that." I spent the rest of the afternoon inside, trying to recreate the situation. I slammed the door shut so many times in an attempt to get the deadbolt to wobble and lock itself, but it never did, and honestly I didn't expect it to. Second experience. Same townhouse. I was now driving and often stayed late after school as I was in theater and had practices. This afternoon, I had about 30 minutes between class and practice, and I drove home to get a snack. When I got there, my mom was at work and my stepdad's van was gone, so I assumed he was gone as well. The door was locked. Now when you walk into this home, right in front of you to the left is the kitchen, the right is my bedroom, and the middle has a staircase going downstairs. I unlocked the door, came inside, and turned into the kitchen with my back to the staircase. As I was making a sandwich, I heard someone downstairs. I turned back around, and the staircase door was open, the stairwell light was on, and someone was clearly downstairs. At the time I thought, wasn't that door closed when I got here? But I also rationalized because my stepdad's van was a cargo van and it wasn't uncommon for someone to borrow it to haul things. So I assumed he was home, his van was borrowed, and went to the top of the stairs. I stood there, looking down the stairs, eating my sandwich, and almost said something. The words were almost out of my mouth, but something stopped me. I still don't know why I didn't yell, "Hi, Jay," down the stairs. Instead, I turned around and left. I left the door unlocked because he was home, right? When I got back from practice, my mom was mad at me because Jay said he came home around 5 p.m. to an unlocked house. He had a lot of expensive equipment in the basement. I was to always lock the door. I tried telling her what I'd seen. He was home at 4. She said he wasn't. I swore he was. Something was home. My brother believed me, but my mom never did. Third experience. I lived in a crappy trailer in my early 20s when I was poor, with 2 young kids. It had 2 bedrooms, which I'd given to the kids and slept on the couch in the living room, which was in direct line of sight to the front door. I put the kids to bed around 9 p.m., and I always locked the door. Always. I still, to this day, clearly remember locking both the handle and deadbolt and checking to make sure it was fully locked before taking a shower. Eventually I fell asleep. I woke up suddenly around 3 a.m. on high alert. As my eyes cleared and I started thinking sensibly, I realized I was staring into my street. My front door was wide open. Not like, oh, it's a little open or cracked. or I didn't quite close it all the way and a strong wind came along. It was fully open, like a 90-degree angle here. Plus, I had a glass storm door that was fully closed and latched, blocking any wind we might have had, which we didn't have any anyways. I got up and walked to the door to close it, and that's when I lost my crap. Y'all, the deadbolt was still in the locked position. It was fully turned to lock, sticking out into the living room air for God and everyone to see. Have you ever had those moments where you swear there's ice in your veins? That was it for me. I've never been scared like that in my life. In a closed door, you can't even turn the deadbolt to fully locked without it being lined up in the door jamb properly. I knew I'd locked the door, and yet here it was, staring at me in the face. I didn't sleep without the lights on for a week. Case notes for file 1083. How a door turned my peaceful night into a nightmare. So in all these instances, if we go with the idea that spirits are involved with all of our door shenanigans, what exactly are they doing? In the last story, did they manage to phase the deadbolt metal itself through the door? So just the metal was taken unphased, the one that actually latches into the door frame with the deadbolt. So then it opened, but there was still a force required to push the door open. Was there an actual gust of wind in that moment? But even if that's the case, again, what is the point of all that? Another peculiarity, especially in motives. Maybe it's not spirits and simply instability in the laws of physics, which I postulate is increasing. Hell, there was a family that experienced a momentary gravity turnoff. Their entire dining room table floated for like a second or two, and everyone there saw it, and then just crashed back down. So if things like that can happen, why not a tiny deadbolt just phasing through? Kinda makes more sense than spirits in this case because I don't see the motive. The first step when trying to solve a case is motive, right? Motive means opportunity. Well, maybe they have the opportunity and means, but I just don't see the motive. Unless they're just trying to prank you, scare you, maybe. It's not impossible, it just doesn't quite fit enough for me. Case file number 1084, written by groundhogseatclover. Strange coincidence or freak accident. Physics lab experiment goes wrong. In my physics class last year, we were split up in groups and working in a lab. A guy at another table let out a yell while extending his arms and fell headfirst off his chair. The very second in between his yell and hitting the floor, a beeping noise started going off in the room, followed by the words, "An emergency is happening in your building. Please evacuate at the nearest exit," and accompanied by flashing lights. The guy is having a seizure on the floor, so we're all focused on getting him help. A campus police officer comes in and tells us the rest of the science buildings have already evacuated due to the fire alarm. Most of us leave to give some space to the people helping the guy. While outside, we're talking amongst ourselves, absolutely baffled by the coinciding events we just witnessed. Did the flashing of the alarm trigger epilepsy? No, because he was already on the floor by the time the lights kicked in. Was there some kind of sensor on him that was alerted when his body was experiencing an emergency? No, because it was his first seizure. Just reading it might sound lame, but witnessing and working out what was happening in real time was just eerie. Case notes are file 1084. Strange coincidence or freak accident. Physics lab experiment goes wrong. So it's cause and effect breaking. Makes you wonder if his brain decoded information that was forward in time subconsciously, which then triggered the epilepsy attack. So, if it was all subconscious, he would never have been aware, since even if our brains are able to gather and process that information about the future, the buffered reality, it's not until it's filtered down to our conscious player view that we know it, the part that we're actually experiencing sentience of the world, the driver at the helm. If all the crew doesn't pass the information to the captain at the helm, then it may as well not exist. Per him. Maybe they were able to sound the alarm but not give the information as to what the hell was going wrong. So I guess I wouldn't chalk this up to a coincidence. It seems too improbable. And now time for the quote of the day. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Like, oh, I'm going to jump into this pool, but the water's too cold. And then you do it, and yeah, it's not pleasant, but then it's over and it's not as nearly as bad as you think it is. Or going up to the girl to ask her out, generally it's perfectly fine. Nothing bad happens. Even if she rejects you, it's not the end of the world, Try not to live in your fear too much. Just try things out, take chances. Yeah, maybe it'll fail, maybe spectacularly, but it's much less likely to be a spectacular, catastrophic failure than just something that didn't work out and you move on and that's it. No big deal. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.